something is wrong with the human body, and scientists have known it for decades. They just never say it out loud. Every other primate on this planet, chimpanzees, gorillas, orangutans, they move efficiently, powerfully, low to the ground. 4 limbs distributing weight, stress, and force exactly the way millions of years of evolution designed them to. And then there's us, balancing our entire existence on 2 narrow points of contact. Spine compressing under its own load, knees grinding, hips misaligned, lower back screaming by age 40. 80% of humans will suffer serious back pain at some point in their lives, not because something went wrong, because of the exact thing that supposedly went right. So here is the question that should disturb you. If walking upright is such a catastrophic design, why did we choose it? And more terrifyingly, what if we didn't choose it at all? Go back 7 million years. The world does not look like this. There are no cities, no roads, no languages, no gods. There is only green, dense, suffocating, ancient forest stretching across the African continent for thousands of miles in every direction. And in those forests live our ancestors. Creatures not quite human, not quite ape, something in between, something unnamed. Something that would never have guessed, in any version of its small animal mind, that its great-great-grandchildren would one day stand on the moon. These creatures move through trees. Their hands are hooks. Their arms are engines. They swing, climb, hang, and grip. 4 limbs working in concert, a system refined over 50 million years of primate evolution. It works, beautifully. And then the climate changed. Not quickly, not dramatically, not in any way that any individual creature could perceive, but slowly, over hundreds of thousands of years, East Africa began to dry. The forests began to thin. Patches of open land appeared between the trees. Grassland, savanna. Miles of exposure with nowhere to hide. This is where everything changed. The scientists have a theory for why we stood up, and on the surface, it sounds reasonable. In the open grassland, an upright posture meant you could see over tall grass, spot predators, spot prey. Strategic advantage, simple, clean. But then something strange happened. When researchers actually tested this theory, running the numbers, modeling the biomechanics, the math didn't hold. Standing upright in tall grass gives you only a marginal height advantage over knuckle walking, barely enough to matter, certainly not enough to justify the catastrophic cost of rewiring your entire skeletal structure over millions of years. So the seeing over grass theory collapsed. Then came the next theory, heat regulation. Walking upright reduces the surface area of your body exposed to direct sunlight. It keeps you cooler. In a hot savanna, that's survival currency. And this one actually had teeth. There's real science behind it. But here's where it gets uncomfortable. Because if heat regulation was the driver, if bipedalism evolved as a cooling mechanism, then what we're really saying is this. Everything that makes you human, every thought you've ever had, every civilization ever built, every war ever fought, every piece of music ever composed, may have originated because our ancestors were simply trying not to overheat. We didn't rise, we didn't ascend, we just didn't want to be too hot. Sit with that for a moment. But that wasn't the worst part, because there's a third theory, one that barely gets mentioned in textbooks. One that changes the entire story. It has to do with hands. When you stand upright, when you free your forelimbs from the job of locomotion, your hands become available, completely, permanently. For the first time in primate history, 2 limbs are liberated from the ground. And the dominant theory among many evolutionary biologists isn't that we stood up because of the savanna, it's that we stood up because of each other. Early hominins began carrying food, long distances, to share with mates, with children, with group members who couldn't hunt. This is where it gets dark, because carrying requires upright posture, and carrying food to share, provisioning, as researchers call it, is fundamentally a social act, a bonding act, an act of commitment. What this means, and almost nobody talks about this, is that bipedalism may not have evolved because of predators, not because of the heat, not because of the landscape. It may have evolved because of love, or something close to love. The ancient, wordless proto-emotion that compelled one creature to carry food across a mile of open savanna and place it in the hands of another. We stood up for each other, and somehow, that is both the most beautiful and most unsettling thing science has ever told us. And this is the part almost nobody talks about. Standing upright didn't just free our hands, it restructured our entire neurology. When you move on 4 limbs, a significant portion of your brain is dedicated to coordinating that movement. It's expensive, cognitively costly. But when bipedalism took over, when walking became semi-automatic, that neural real estate was suddenly available, freed up, redirected. Some researchers believe this neurological liberation directly contributed to the explosive growth of the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for planning, for abstract thought, for language, for self-awareness. Think about what that means. The moment we stood up, we didn't just change our posture, we changed our minds. We created the cognitive space for consciousness to deepen, for imagination to emerge. For the first time in the history of life on this planet, a creature began to think about its own thinking. Standing up didn't just make us look different, it made us become different. But here is the question no one wants to ask. If the brain expanded to fill the space that movement once occupied, what have we done to that brain now that we barely move at all? The average human today sits for 9 to 10 hours a day. We have outsourced locomotion to machines. We have eliminated physical effort from almost every domain of life. The bodies that evolved to walk 10 to 12 miles a day now walk fewer than 5,000 steps, and depression rates are at historic highs. Anxiety is an epidemic. Attention is fracturing. Cognitive decline is accelerating in populations that have never been more sedentary. We stood up to think, and now we sit down and wonder why we can't. This was never really about walking. You understand that now, don't you? This was about the chain of consequences that follows a single biological decision made 7 million years ago by a creature that had no idea what it was doing. A creature that stood up, maybe to stay cool, maybe to carry food, maybe for reasons we still don't fully understand, and accidentally built the architecture for everything that came after. Language, art, religion, science, war, medicine, music, philosophy. The very video you are watching right now. All of it resting on that original stumbling act of standing. And here is what haunts me about all of this. What should haunt you? Every major turning point in human history follows the same pattern. A creature under pressure makes a desperate adaptation. And that adaptation, designed to solve one small problem, unleashes a cascade of consequences that reshape everything, forever. Our ancestors didn't stand up to build civilization. They stood up to survive Tuesday. And we are the unintended consequences. Everything you are, everything you've felt, every memory, every fear, every dream you've ever chased, all of it is the downstream effect of a posture shift in a drying forest, in a world that no longer exists, by a creature that has no name. You are an accident that learned to wonder about its own existence, and somehow that is the most human thing there is. The next time you stand up from your chair, and you will, probably in the next few minutes, notice it. Notice the subtle, almost miraculous act of balancing your entire body on 2 points. Notice how your spine stacks, how your arms hang free, how your eyes lift to the horizon. You are doing something no other creature does quite like you, something that cost millions of years of pain and pressure and extinction and accident to produce. Something that broke your back, freed your hands, expanded your mind, and made you capable of asking questions that the universe has never had to answer before. You stood up, and the world was never the same. Neither were you.